What's the number one thing that couples fight about?
They say finances, right? It's one of the top ones.
No, they don't say it is. Like they've done a lot of research. So if this is something that is so important that's going to cause your breakup, shouldn't this be something that you discuss up front?
But the question is, how many people are you going to talk about that with? You go on so many dates.
How many people you show your catalog to?
Why?
So you would rather open that than open the bank?
Hi, welcome back to my comfy couch. Say hi, everyone. Thaddeus, Nichole. We got Renzo on the line. Say hi, Renzo.
Hi, everyone.
And we have Ashley on the line. Say hi, Ashley.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate you both. I see that you guys support our channel and I really appreciate it, okay? All right, so today our topic is about finances and dating. Ooh, I know it's a sensitive one. And I wanted to talk about this because I feel that so many people are just dating each other and not even discussing finances. It's something like taboo, right? And I feel like it's something that we need to bring to the table. So tell me, we're going to start it off with you guys' experience. What's been your experience discussing finances and dating? Like, when do you guys think is like a good time to talk about it? I'm gonna start with you, Ashley. Go.
So I have been in a long-term relationship with someone for a long time. We actually started dating pretty young. We got into a relationship pretty young, not dating per se. But so finances wasn't a really like important thing at the time because we started so young. So it was kind of like we were building and growing kind of together. And so finances was very personal. It didn't involve the two of us because we were younger. Now, if I had to go back into the dating pool, I think it would be a lot more important. I think that if we're talking about just dating, meaning like you're just getting to know people, it's not really intentional as far as like, oh, I'm gonna marry this person or anything like that. I don't think you need to disclose the full, like, you know, the ins and outs of your finances. If you're dating somebody seriously, it's intentional, marriage, you should definitely know debts, credits, income, the details.
See, because that's the thing, right? It's like kind of this gray area because like at first you're dating, you're just trying to get to know people, right? Before you make a decision if they're going to be long-term. But the thing is that could finances impact your decision to be long-term with them? So you kind of do have to talk about it before you commit to them. But like you said, you don't want to tell everybody kind of like off the jump, right? So it's like one kind of ideal time. Renzo, what about you? What's been your experience discussing finances when dating?
Well, in my current relationship, we decided to discuss finances very early on. And, you know, I think it has been good. I've been in a relationship in the past that had been long-term where we did not discuss finances at all. So having been in both sides of the situation, I do believe that discussing finances is important, one. Now, I do agree with Ashley in that for me, there's not a hard line rule as to when somebody should talk about finances as far as time. I cannot tell you whether that's 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. For me, it's more like Ashley said, when you're ready to get to become more serious. So, for example, if you're in a relationship at the initial stage where you're doing little more than spending money on dates, you know, restaurants, bars, clubs, vacations, things like that, it's not that important. But when you are moving beyond that, so for example, saving up for a house, perhaps, or saving up to buy some common property, some sort of investment, even, you know, wedding planning or children, anything of that sort, or even things like education. Your partner wants to get an education and you want to support your partner or vice versa. Once you're moving to that stage, I think finances are very important, and you know, you sort of need to have the talk about finances. That's how I see it.
Okay, Renzo. So Renzo, so you said in this relationship you spoke about it up front. Now, when you spoke it up about it up front? Did you go into detail? Were you like, this is my credit score, these are my debts, this is how much money I make? Like, did you guys really have like a really honest conversation and both were comfortable, talking about your current finances?
Yes, we were pretty forward, and the full disclosure. Uh, the reason we were able to do that early on is just because of but in early on we had agreed that we both wanted to get serious sooner rather than later. You know, because normally, like I said, in the past, I've been in a relationship for years where this was never even brought up because, somebody can spend years, let's say, on a more superficial part of our relationship, restaurants, bars, vacations, and not get to that other side. And on the flip side, you can start a relationship with someone and have that as a project, looking into the future together. So, yeah, we were pretty upfront about our assets, liabilities, about uh, what our incomes were, what our credit scores were, and why we were in the situations that we were, and where we were looking to go from there. So not just about our present, but also a little bit about our past and our aspirations for the future.
Ooh, I love that. Man, love it. Okay, Thaddeus, tell me, what about you? Have you discussed dating? I mean, finances when dating?
Actually, I have not.
Why not?
It's just like, how can I say this? So it's two different ways to date, right? You could date one with a purpose, right? Where to me, it's more beneficial if you do it the way that he just did it. So the other way to me does not work, where we get together and we kind of like each other and then we just kind of like dating around. And then at some point in the future, we're going to sit down and actually discuss finances. By that time, it's already too late. I already have feelings for you, I already have feelings for me. So everything that you see, especially if you really love this person, you're gonna start to brush things underneath the rug. Things that would normally be a red flag to you is gonna kind of go over your head, or you'll make light of it because you're already knee deep already into the relationship. So at that point, it's really too late to start to talk about finances.
So what are you saying? Like, you be friends first and then?
No. I'm saying if you and someone you are serious, you're dating serious, you just meet someone. To me, I don't get why finances are such a touchy subject, or it's so private where you can't discuss it, but yet still you could go home with this person, do all these wild and crazy things with private parts. Parts that are supposed to be private, so you let this person do all that stuff with them, but yet still your bank account is so private that you can't. Like, come on! Come on! It's and for this show, I mean, it just kind of like it's shining a light on why dating today is so ineffective, because we're putting the emphasis on the wrong thing. We're putting the cart before the horse. We are leaving the meat and potatoes of the relationship last. Like the stuff that's supposed to be the stuff that's gonna give us a foundation that's gonna build. These things are lasting. Like, what is your favorite color? This is nonsense that we're talking about on a date. Color. Like, oh, you like ice cream? Like, it's just like itty, like things that are not going to matter in 10, 20 years. Like, these are the things that you should talk about to me on a first date. Like, you want to qualify that person immediately or disqualify them immediately. And finances, what's the number one thing that couples fight about?
They say finances, right? It's one of the top ones.
No, they don't say it is. Like, they've done a lot of research. So if this is something that is so important that's going to cause your breakup, shouldn't this be something that you discuss up front?
But the question is, how many people are you going to talk about that with? You go on so many dates.
How many people you show your catalog to?
Why?
So you would rather open that than open that?
Renzo, you know what Kakalak is? Kakalak is the ladies' private area.
Yeah, I didn't use, I learned some of the nomenclature on this.
Lord.
So you would rather show him that than show him, like, what's so private about your account? I'm not saying put it on blast for the world to see, but like if you actually going out with this person, I think that they should be able to know.
Renzo, what are you gonna say?
Okay, I get where it's coming from, and yeah, I don't think that the finances should be so taboo. I do think that one of the reasons that it may be is not just because of the privacy aspect of it, but also because we are still, in one way or another, we still are romantic in the sense that a lot of us still believe that we should like the person for who they are, and we should not put this finances as a qualifier as to the of the character of the person. We think that we should date people and unite with people for love and stay with them for love, which is great. And I mean, I get it, I agree with that, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that the other aspect, the financial aspect, is not important, and it doesn't mean that it cannot be incorporated in a way where one takes more priority than the other, because as you guys mentioned, most couples marry for love, and most marriages get divorced for finances. So this is important, and there gotta be a better way to bring it up and talk about it without signaling some sort of like shallowness or judgment.
Yeah, I mean, why would that be? I don't get that. It's like, are you ashamed of who you are? Like, if you make $12 an hour, you make $12 an hour. Like, what is the big deal?
Well,
I think more importantly,
what's the big deal? Tell me.
it's a big deal because people judge you based on that.
Okay,
So if you don't
okay, so is it not the reason why you're sitting across from this person?
well, what if I got a $12 job, but my potential I'm working towards
you could tell
is a $50 job, but you judging me because I'm at 12 right now.
But the thing is, once you start to hide and play these games, that's why relationships don't work. You're trying to put on this facade of somebody that you're not. Just be who you are. If the person is going to like you at $12, then tomorrow when you making 50, they're going to love you even more.
Ashley, what you going to say? I think you were trying to say something.
I was going to say that I think more importantly than discussing the details of your actual personal finances with every person you casually date, I think it's more important to find out like if the person is like risky with money, if they're mindful, if they save, if they...
And how will you determine that, Ashley?
You can ask certain questions and find out these things about people besides asking what's in their account, because their account can be flourishing and they're a risky...
I could tell you, but my point is I could tell you whatever I want. You could tell me, how are you with money? I'm going to tell you, Ashley, I'm amazing with money. I do well. The thing is like, nah, this comes down to dollar and cents. Like, yo, if you're so amazing with money, then you're going to have the credits to prove it. So it's like, let me see your bank account. Let me see it. Let me see those transactions. You're so good with money. Let me see it.
Okay.
Let me see
it. That's invasive for some, like, if you go on...
How is that invasive? And you could go home with this person and...
How is that your touch point?
Ashley.
Yes.
Okay, I'm done.
That was the full range of my point. It was that like you should find out like how they are financially and like the habits that they have, as opposed to like what do you have in your account right now?
Actually, okay, I was talking to a friend of mine, right? And I was telling him recently I was trying to buy a house, and I had the credit score was okay, the income was okay, but because I had so much student loans, it was really bringing down the amount that I was approved for. So I have one daughter, right? And when I explained this to him, he's like, okay, so it's like you have 3 children now. I said, what you mean I have 3 children? He's like, because I have this, other debt, it's like I'm carrying additional children. Like, do you guys feel like that, your debt really matters, and it's something kind of like, do you guys care about that?
I mean, of course.
Yes.
Of course I would care about your debt. If we get married, your debt becomes my debt. Your finances becomes my finances. So of course I would care. If you are $1 million in debt, that means I'm $1 million in debt now. It's like, of course I'm going to care about that.
But how many percentage of people don't have a lot of school debt, and have debt, so you're going to be disqualifying a lot of people if from the job.
It didn't say disqualify. He just take it into account.
Okay, Renzo, tell me, would that matter to you if she had a lot of student debt, or what kind of debt? Tell me, is it like she has another kid?
It's not like she has another kid, but I was actually thinking about it, discussing this yesterday. Yes, the amount is important. Again, it's not a disqualifier because I feel like, everything is very fact intensive. So it also matters what kind of debt, because if you have, let's say, I don't know, $75,000 in debt because you took out a business loan and you try to set up a business and your business didn't work out, to me, I would look at much more favorably than if you just took out like retail debt to buy like shallow things and or if you just went to the casino or something like that, or a student loan. It also depends why you acquire that debt, or or if you have debt because you owe a bunch of child support, like stuff like that. Like, I don't think all debt is equal. And also, even if you took out like debt wrongly, if nowadays you realize that and you are actually doing something to remedy that situation, I feel it's different than if you're not doing anything about that situation. So, it's a bit fact intensive, but yeah, I do think, you should be, you should forward about that stuff, because that's part of your situation. It doesn't define who you are, but I feel like precisely because of that, you should disclose it, because it's not like who you are as a whole.
So how about you, Ashley, from kind of like your perspective, if you were dating a guy, or you found out a guy you're thinking of being long-term with, and he had a lot of debt, let's say, would that affect your decision to date him?
I completely agree with what Renzo said. I think more importantly than like the specific amount of debt would be, again, like I said earlier, the habits and the money spending characteristics that got him in the debt in the first place. So like if it was a business loan and it didn't work out, okay, it could be the same amount as someone who just took out a bunch of personal loans for whatever, like to pay back whatever. Like, I think more important than the amount, not saying the amount is not important, but more important than the amount is why he has the debt in the first place. So, and also, like he said, the means in which he's trying to rectify the situation. So if he's like, yeah, I got $100,000 in student loans and they just sitting there, I'm not paying those, then like, it's like, okay, that's a red flag. Like, you're not making any attempt to clear this. Like, you're not trying to do anything about it. But if he's like, I have a plan, this is how much I put towards it, then we could within reason, we could talk about it. It's not like the end all be all for me. Debt is not the end all be all.
Yeah, I think that, unlike other sort of parts of someone's character that may be more difficult to change, I think finances can actually be changed more easily. You can be in a terrible financial situation now, and 3 years from now or 5 years from now be in a very good financial situation. It's not like a personality trait or a character trait that like takes years of work to change.
Renzo, that is such a good point, because I was going to ask that. What if the person had everything else that you loved about him, and you were stronger in the finance area? You wouldn't be the one to say, okay, let me handle our finances, meaning I will, put us on a budget and everything, because you have all this other stuff I like. Like, you guys aren't going to take the other stuff into consideration?
My mom has always said, like, when you're looking for someone, especially when it comes to like marriage, because the fact of the matter is that a lot of people end up like having really hard times surrounding finances when they're married. Make sure you find someone that balances you. So like the two of you guys cannot be spenders. Like, that's just not going to work. So if you notice you're with someone and they have all the rest of the qualities that you like and they're just the biggest spender, you have to make the adjustment and say, you know what? I need to be more disciplined, because otherwise we will have no money. You know what I mean? Like, so change what you can change about, which is yourself. You can't change the other person. You can either take that personality trait for what it is and then say, you know what? I have to be more intentional about, like, we can't spend everything that we have. So we have to have some sort of like balance. And I think that works for other things as well, but most important, like finances. If you see someone and like, oh, they save, then you have a little more wiggle room with yourself. With like, okay, I could be the spender, not spend everything, but that person is more financially responsible and vice versa.
Okay. What about you, Thaddeus? If she had everything else?
For me, like it wouldn't matter that much, because my marriage, like long term, will probably be more traditional. So she will just have, let's say, like I hate to say an allowance.
I know he's gonna say allowance.
No, but she'll have like, this is your spending money. Like you could do whatever you want. You don't have to budget. But just know that like, when it's done, it's done. And then next week you get more, and then next week you get more.
So you're okay. She coming with a bunch of debt. You're gonna handle the finances anyway, so it's okay.
Yeah, like I said, it's one of those things where you're going to evaluate the person, and based on their debt. I know they said it's the amount, or not. Sorry, they said that it's the type and not the amount. But for me, it would be more the amount. Like if they had $1,000 in credit card debt and a $2 million business loan.
That's really dramatic.
I mean, I don't really care why your business failed. I mean, I still got to pay back $2 million. So.
See, I think the past has something to do with it too, because I think a lot of people grew up with their parents being terrible with money, and them kind of starting off the bat in a bad place. But like Ashley and I think Renzo and them said, it's are they working towards changing that pattern? You know what I mean? That has a lot to do with it as well. Okay, so again, I want to make this kind of conversation more normal, right? Normalize this when you're dating someone. So with having this conversation, would you guys be okay if someone was dating intentional and dating long-term, and in the first couple dates straight out asked you to disclose that type of information? Would you guys be okay with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be okay with it? How about you, Ashley?
Intentional? Yeah.
No, I mean, if you're just meeting some random dude and you know that this is just some guy you're gonna go out with for a couple weeks or a couple months, dude, why you asking me my business? Like,
but that's dating. That's casual dating. That's exactly what I said at the beginning.
Yeah, that's what I'm agreeing with you. I'm like, why you?
Okay.
Yeah, like, why this dude asking you your business?
Okay,
yeah, if it's intentional.
Renzo, you're okay with it, right? Because I think that's how you started this relationship, right?
Yeah, I agree with it. I don't see the problem.
Okay, and you guys said casual dating versus intentional dating. Let's say if you're intentionally dating people, there is a get to know you phase, right? So let's say you met someone at the grocery store. You guys exchanged numbers, you had a couple conversations, you went on your first date, you're both intentional. Are you guys going to mention that on the first date?
Well, a first date is a bit heavy to be talking about finances.
Okay.
But it needs to be sooner rather than later.
So maybe second, third date? Yeah,
like once you see that, okay, well, this is going somewhere, it's like, yo, let's sit down. Like, for instance, I had this one, person I was like really interested in, like long term. And like we sat down, she actually wrote out questions. Like we were on the phone, she was like skipping pages. Like, but that's like, we had only went out like once, and we were already at that stage because we know that that's what we wanted to do long term. And yeah, so after like the first couple of days, when you know you like each other's vibe, now it's time to get down to business. Okay, because that's the thing is that I think a lot of the dating, we are kind of meeting people and not knowing if we're sure about them. So I think it does take a couple dates. But like you said, if we're intentional dating, then if by the third date or fourth date we don't know that this person's long term, then hey. I mean, but you don't know if they're going to make it all the way, but you know that they have potential. So because I think at this age, by the time you're in your 30s, 40s, or late 20s or whatever, like you have gone on so much dates that you're not really hopeful of, like you're really skeptical about the person. So I feel like we don't get to date 1, 2, and 3 and feel like, okay, she might be the one or he might be the one. Because we have seen so much happen and we know at first you're not really sure. Some people are kind of deceptive. So to me, it's unrealistic is what I'm trying to say. Even if you're intentionally dating, like at first, it takes you a while. What do you guys think? You think within 3 dates if this is a long-term person? Yeah, if they have a potential to be long-term. And then after, like, let's say the second, third date, it's like, after that, what are you discussing? If it's not finances, if it's not, how do you feel about child rearing? If it's not, where do you see yourself? If it's not, how are your parents? How are your parents' relationship? How do you view marriage? If you're not talking about that, what are you talking about then? After the first 3 dates? I feel like
scares guys off, like, because
So
there you
it,
feel
it
like,
only scares guys off if their intention is not to marry you.
Yeah.
It's
okay,
like, no, this is too serious. I just wanted something casual. If you want something casual, then hey, listen, I'm not for you.
okay, Renzo, is that true? Like, if you're really serious about girl, would those questions kind of scare you at first? It's too heavy.
I don't know, with the supermarket example, you know, it depends on which supermarket we met at. You know, if we meet at Whole Foods, it's a whole different thing than if we meet at Presidente. So, you know,
Facts.
no, I'm just
Right.
kidding. That's sort of a joke for someone too. But no, honestly, I do think the questions are pretty heavy, and that's why I call it the talk, because it is sort of a heavy subject that's unlikely to come out very naturally. It's one of those things that is most likely going to be like, hey, let's sit down and we need to talk about this. And you know, it might be scary for some people, but I also think that it's not intuitive to everybody. It definitely was not intuitive to me. So for example, in the past, you know, we did not get to have that talk until a couple of months that we were already living together. And again, it's not because either of us were afraid of it, but it's because we were just so caught up on having a good time together, like just hanging out and just living very much in the present. And you know, that's kind of normal. A lot of people just very much live in the present head on, and sometimes, yeah, you can forget. And you know, especially if it's something that you haven't experienced before, then it's one of those situations where you don't know what you don't know. So if you've never really understood the importance of talking finances with your significant other, then you don't know it's important to begin with. So you know, you're stuck in the present and not thinking about it. You know, now I know better. So that's one of the first things that we did. You know, that, well, not the first thing, but we did it pretty early on. So
I totally agree, Renzo. And I wanted to state too, sometimes we kind of assume how much that person makes and what their finances is like, because they're taking us out to certain places, their place looks a certain way, their car looks a certain way, and you like kind of say, based on their job, it's like, okay, they probably make around this much, they're probably a good saver, but you really don't know until you have like a legit conversation. So I just wanted to put that out there and have this whole conversation because it's so important. And I want us to feel comfortable about doing it. And thank you all for kind of sharing your opinion.